Hello, we are the team of Saratov State University from the Russian Federation. I am Gribkov Alexander Andreevich,
And my name is Lavrentiev Nikolaevich.
and the topic which we want to discuss with you is major problems in legal regulation of automobile import. Today we're going to talk about the interaction between customs service structure and business on a matter of importing automobiles. It's a rather complicated thing because customs all over the world have a duty to protect borders and economical systems of their countries. On the opposite side are business people whose interests are, in general, earning more and spending less while satisfying customers' needs.
Of course, customs policies and business interests may be counterproductive. For example, if country's government will introduce new protectionistic regulations to boost internal trade, international business will face a number of problems in importing to that country, which will cause troubles for potential buyers.
We'd like to share some examples of conflict of interests mentioned above that we have found by analyzing different practical approaches to it adopted by customs officers all over the world. First, we want to attract necessary attention to this problem.
Firstly, we will discuss actual problems in Russia. It all began right after the dissolution of Soviet Union. Citizens have realized that now nothing does restrict them from importing cheap and comfortable second-hand cars anymore and started to actively buy them. Even now, 90% of vehicles in the eastern part of Russia are right-hand drive, bought from Japanese domestic market.
Federal Customs Service of Russia hasn't left this rush without attention. In 2002, new duties were introduced for importing of cars that are older than 7 years, making them unprofitable. So, due to the widespread disgruntling, first illegal car importing schemes have appeared.
Here is the scheme. First, cars which were illegally imported had to be disassembled before importing to Russia. Then they were declared as spare car parts and assembled again at the other side of the border.
Taking into account the official data of Eastern Regional Customs Administration of Russia, almost 80,000 vehicle chassis were imported at this time. To make it all legal, the valid documents from damaged or destroyed cars of the same model were used. Everyone had the right to swap damaged parts of their vehicles, no matter if it was engine or chassis, so the procedure was completely legal.
Until new changes in customs tariff were made. After that, people had to pay minimum amount of 5,000 euros when declaring a chassis or input half cuts of chassis to avoid paying a tax. That was a new invention made by smugglers. They've shipped a car cut in two pieces through the border, welded half cuts together in Russia, and then registered the car using the same method as before. Although now they had to put the same vehicle identification number on chassis, as it is in documents of the car, which is absolutely illegal.
The new scheme has had a lot of downsides. The car would have been confiscated if the police was ever to find out, and the safety of using a car welded from pieces is a big concern. The worst thing you can imagine is a car crash with such a car.
Importing cars as half cuts was popular in Russia until about 2011. Then, due to the police regular investigations and raids to detect suspicious cars and the Eurasian Economic Union's new legal regulations, use of this scheme has significantly decreased.
But at the beginning of 2017, the government has applied a new measure, inventing a necessity for an irregularness certification for all imported vehicles. It could become a new big reason for using old smuggling schemes. Irregularness is a public urgent response system for the cases of car accidents and other emergencies on the road. It looks like a tiny SOS button on your vehicle's central panel.
The problem is, in order to get an official certificate and thus an import permission, considering the system installed and working, you have to complete 2 crash tests in special laboratory. It is done to assure that the response system will work after every kind of common car accidents.
What about the people importing cars for personal use? What about used car dealers? The whole situation seems to be some kind of masked non-tariff regulation by unaffordable cost, at least for those that are not a big car company like Toyota.
This is bad for business, and we may only hope that soon the Erdogan project will be revised. Until then, we may expect to see more welded half cuts of cars on the streets of Russia.
Another country which we have studied is the USA. By now, the easiest way to legally import a vehicle into the United States is to make sure that it suits all the laws and regulations about requirements. Unfortunately, simple is hardly the word to describe this process. Achieving legal compliance of an imported car requires crash testing the car in order to prove that it meets US safety standards.
That means you can't simply buy a car that you want to import. You have to buy a few, bring them into compliance with safety rules and regulations, and then crash one in order to get imported permission. There is lots of things that should be installed on a vehicle that are surprisingly expensive, like the little chime that beeps when passengers don't fasten their seatbelt, or a device that limits fuel spilling in an accident. Only these things cost more than $10,000.
Of course, like in Russia, we may see some examples of smuggling to avoid expensive import, like the case with the vehicle manufacturer company called ICSA Industries that was importing rare Nissan Skylines in Southern California with a disassembling scheme similar to Russian. The company has built Skylines in Japan, separated the engine from the chassis, and shipped both as car parts to assemble them again in the US.
All Skylines has got a new vehicle identification number since it was manufactured using imported car parts. Not surprisingly, the importer was prosecuted, and many of the customers have seen their cars confiscated and destroyed.
There are also some examples with the same model of the car, the most notorious of which is Model X importing firm. That company has certified only the R33 generation of Nissan Skylines for legal import, but also illegally sold previous or later models using their trusted certified status. The result is a complete shutdown.
The Russian practice looks a bit similar, isn't it? But in the United States, there are some differences in the balancing of government, business, and citizen interests. The first one is that you can easily import a vehicle which is substantially similar. Example, if you're moving from Canada to America with your Ford Explorer, then you will have no problem bringing it on with you because the Canadian Ford and American Ford are almost identical.
The second difference is called show and display rule, which was introduced by several wealthy American car enthusiasts. By using this rule, people may skip most of import procedures if the vehicle is really rare and culturally valuable. It's applicable for models such as Aston Martin 177 or McLaren F1, but not for something less unusual.
And the third, the most interesting one, it's a 25 years old rule. It said that for an old car you do not have to pass crash tests, change headlights, or even install seatbelts if there are none of them originally. That a fully legal import. The single requirement that the vehicle can be only imported with its original engine, or a different one, but certified by the Environmental Protection Agency.
This last rule definitely may prove to be useful for a lot of countries having troubles with automobile import legal regulation, like the Philippines businessmen who disassembled cars in Belgium to import them as car parts because of extremely high import taxes. People from Thailand, Malaysia and Burma are hiring UK business to dismantle British cars and sell them as parts, which are likely to be declared as scrap metal in listed countries. There are many states with the same smuggling issue.
In conclusion, the problem is that the people who do these things may be just trying to find cheaper old car models, or they may be just car enthusiasts with no interests in brand new cars, so why don't let them buy it? We suggest to simplify all the car import and to divide and group necessary certification requirements for importing used cars by their age.
We're also surprised with the lack of any recommendations on the problem in a specific annex of Kyoto Convention. If we legalize import of old cars without the certification, it won't mean lots of rubbish coming through the border. Using strong national regulations is what we suggest. Checking an old car before importing should become an importer's concern. If the car doesn't work the way it should before or while it is shipped or imported, it should be refused in importing or recycled.
But if every part of the car works good enough and the car is acceptable according to modern standards, we should not provoke people to go smuggling. Thank you for your attention.
Goodbye.